Gaza is in ruins. The once vibrant city is now a landscape of devastation and despair. The relentless conflict has left no corner untouched, turning homes, schools, and hospitals into piles of rubble. The ongoing conflict has created a humanitarian catastrophe. Families are torn apart and communities are shattered. The basic necessities of life are now luxuries that many cannot afford. Thousands of innocent lives have been lost. Each day brings new tragedies, with families mourning the loss of loved ones. The grief is palpable and the pain is unending. The death toll continues to rise with each passing day. Essential services have collapsed. The infrastructure that once supported daily life is now in ruins, making survival a daily struggle. Hospitals are overwhelmed, lacking vital medical supplies. Medical staff are working tirelessly, but the sheer number of casualties and the scarcity of resources make their task nearly impossible. The blockade has cut off Gaza from the outside world. This isolation has exacerbated the crisis, preventing the flow of essential goods and humanitarian aid. Food, water, and electricity are scarce. The basic elements needed for survival are in short supply, forcing people to endure unimaginable hardships. The people of Gaza are struggling to survive. They live in makeshift shelters, scavenging for whatever resources they can find. Their resilience is remarkable, but their situation is dire. They live in constant fear of the next bombardment. The situation is dire. Every day is a battle for survival, with the threat of violence looming over them. The international community must act swiftly. The world cannot turn a blind eye to the suffering in Gaza. Diplomatic efforts and humanitarian aid are urgently needed to alleviate the crisis. Urgent humanitarian aid is desperately needed. Every bit of assistance can make a difference, providing relief to those who are suffering the most. The people of Gaza deserve our attention. Their suffering must end. The children, the future of Gaza, are growing up amidst chaos and destruction. The world watches as an entire population is pushed to the brink. The images of devastation and despair are broadcast globally, yet the crisis continues unabated. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a stain on our collective conscience. It is a call to action for all of humanity to stand in solidarity with the people of Gaza. We cannot remain silent in the face of such suffering. Voices from around the world are calling for justice and peace. The time for action is now. The world must come together to provide the necessary support and bring an end to this humanitarian disaster. The Israeli military employs devastating tactics. These tactics have a profound impact on the civilian population in Gaza. Indiscriminate bombing raids have destroyed homes, schools, and hospitals. The use of heavy artillery has caused widespread devastation. The targeting of civilian infrastructure such as power plants and water treatment facilities has exacerbated the humanitarian crisis. The siege on Gaza, now in its 18th year, has crippled the economy and deprived its people of basic necessities. These actions constitute collective punishment. They are a clear violation of international law. The world must hold Israel accountable for its actions. Justice for the Palestinian people must be served. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable. Behind the statistics are real people with families, hopes, and dreams. Their lives have been shattered by the relentless cycle of violence. We must listen to their stories. One such story is that of Fatima, a young mother who lost her husband and 2 children in an airstrike. She now lives in a crowded refugee camp, struggling to provide for her surviving children. Her story is not unique. Countless others have endured similar tragedies. Their stories are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the unimaginable hardships they face, the people of Gaza have not given up hope. They continue to demand their right to live in peace and dignity. The international community's response to the crisis in Gaza has been inadequate. While some nations have condemned the violence, concrete action has been limited. The United States, Israel's closest ally, has consistently blocked meaningful resolutions at the United Nations. International aid organizations struggle to deliver assistance due to the ongoing blockade. The lack of a unified and decisive response has allowed the crisis to fester. This inaction has had deadly consequences for the Palestinian people. The world must move beyond empty rhetoric and take concrete steps to end the suffering in Gaza. This includes lifting the blockade, providing humanitarian aid, and holding Israel accountable for its violations of international law. The current crisis in Gaza is not an isolated incident. It is a continuation of a long and complex history that has seen numerous conflicts, peace efforts, and setbacks. It is the latest chapter in a decades-long conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. This conflict has deep historical roots and has been marked by periods of intense violence, as well as attempts at negotiation and peace. The roots of the conflict can be traced back to the early 20th century, with the rise of Zionism and the displacement of Palestinians from their land. Zionism, a movement for the re-establishment of a Jewish homeland, gained momentum in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, leading to increased Jewish immigration to Palestine. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War resulted in the creation of the State of Israel and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. This event, known as the Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic, saw many Palestinians become refugees, a status that has persisted for generations. The 1967 Six-Day War led to Israel's occupation of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. This war significantly altered the geopolitical landscape of the region, with Israel taking control of territories that are still hotly contested today. The Oslo Accords in the 1990s offered a glimmer of hope for a peaceful resolution. These agreements, signed by Israeli and Palestinian leaders, aimed to lay the groundwork for a two-state solution, envisioning a future where both peoples could coexist peacefully. However, the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and the continued expansion of Israeli settlements in the occupied territories derailed the peace process. Rabin's assassination in 1995 by a Jewish extremist was a significant blow to the peace movement, and the growth of settlements has been a major point of contention. The ongoing cycle of violence has had a devastating impact on both Palestinians and Israelis. The human cost of this conflict is immense, with countless lives lost, families torn apart, and communities living in constant fear. Despite numerous efforts at peace, the path to a lasting resolution remains elusive, leaving both sides to grapple with the harsh realities of this enduring conflict. Section 6. The price of indifference, the urgency for international action. The international community cannot afford to remain indifferent to the suffering in Gaza. The humanitarian crisis demands immediate attention. The consequences of inaction are too dire to contemplate. We must act now to prevent further loss of life and alleviate the suffering of millions. The world must demand an immediate ceasefire and an end to the blockade. The international community must also hold all parties accountable for war crimes and human rights violations. The time for words is over. The world must act now to bring peace and justice to the people of Gaza and the region. Section 7. Beyond the headlines, understanding the root causes. To achieve a lasting solution, we must look beyond the headlines and address the root causes of the conflict. This includes the ongoing occupation of Palestinian territories, the expansion of Israeli settlements, and the denial of Palestinian self-determination. The international community must pressure Israel to end its occupation and engage in good faith negotiations with the Palestinians. We must also challenge the narrative that perpetuates violence and demonizes entire populations. Peace will only be possible when both Palestinians and Israelis can live in freedom, security, and dignity. Section 8. Seeds of Hope, Palestinian Resistance and the Pursuit of Justice. Despite the overwhelming challenges they face, the Palestinian people have not given up hope. They continue to resist the occupation and strive for a just and lasting peace. Their resilience is an inspiration to people around the world. From peaceful protests to cultural resistance, Palestinians are using various methods to challenge the occupation and amplify their voices. Their struggle for freedom and self-determination resonates with all those who believe in justice and equality. Their spirit of resistance is a testament to the enduring human desire for freedom and dignity. Section 9. A Call for Solidarity. Bridging the Divide and Building a Just Peace. In a world fraught with division and conflict, the need for unity and understanding has never been more urgent. The call for solidarity is not just a plea, it is a necessity for the survival of our shared humanity. The conflict in Gaza is a global issue that demands a global response. It is not confined to one region or one people, it affects us all. The pain and suffering experienced by those in Gaza reverberate across the world, reminding us of our interconnectedness. We must all do our part to raise awareness, challenge injustice, and educate ourselves and others about the complexities of the conflict. By doing so, we can foster a deeper understanding and empathy that transcends borders and advocate for a peaceful resolution. Peace is not merely the absence of war, it is the presence of justice, equality, and mutual respect. It requires active participation and unwavering commitment from each one of us. We must reach across divides, build bridges of understanding, and engage in meaningful dialogue. It is through these efforts that we can dismantle the barriers that separate us and create a foundation for lasting peace, and work together to create a more just and equitable world. Our actions today will shape the future for generations to come. We have the power to influence change and make a difference. Our collective humanity compels us to act. We are bound by a shared responsibility to protect and uplift one another. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We must stand in solidarity with all those who seek peace and justice. Solidarity is more than a gesture. It is a powerful force that can drive change and inspire hope. Together, we can amplify the voices of the voiceless and ensure that their stories are heard. By standing together, we can challenge the status quo and demand a better world, and help build a future where all people can live in freedom and dignity. A future where children can play without fear, and families can thrive in peace. Let us choose hope over despair, justice over oppression, and peace over conflict. These choices define who we are and what we stand for. The time for action is now. We cannot afford to wait. The future is in our hands, and it is up to us to make it a future of peace, justice, and solidarity.